Hi everybody, welcome to Leaning Left. I'm David Rodriguez, here with another installment of They Tweeted What? Because there's always a horrible, horrible tweet coming from the right, and this one's going to be no exception, of course. You know, if you gave 100 bulls a triple dose of laxative, they still could not spew as much bullshit as Marjorie Taylor Greene. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a little bit of a Freudian slip. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Everything she says is utter and complete nonsense, fueled by weird conspiracy theories or things she just made up in her head. And you know, this tweet is going to be another example of that. So let's take a look at it. All right. It says, 113 billion has been appointed to Ukraine in just 1 year. Trump's wall would have only cost 22 billion, but Congress refused to fund it. 6 billion people illegally crossed our border since Biden took office, but Ukraine's border is the only border that matters to Washington. How'd you like that? Was that a good impression? I don't know. I can't stand to listen to her for more than a minute, so there's no way I'm going to get it right. Now, she's since deleted this tweet, and the last part is probably the reason why, but let's just go through it, okay? All right, so first, she says, 113 billion has been appointed to Ukraine in just 1 year. That could well be. Trump's wall would have cost only 22 billion, but Congress refused to fund it. Why might that be? Because the wall was absolutely pointless. Have you seen videos of people scaling the wall that was made in about like 3 seconds flat? It's useless. It's meaningless. And Trump had to know that. It was just a monument to racism. It exists because Republicans, conservatives are so freaked out about brown people. They're so freaked out about this invasion at our border. By the way, there's not an invasion at our border, but I'll get to that in a minute because she's going to get right to the border here right away. She says 6 billion people illegally crossed our border since Biden took office, but Ukraine's border is the only border that matters to Washington. 6 billion people crossed our border? There's only like 7.5 billion people on Earth. All right, really? Like 3/4 of the Earth's population crossed our border? That doesn't seem possible. In fact, it's absolutely not possible. She's crazy. What she's doing is she's doing what pretty much all right-wing media and all right-wing politicians are doing right now. They're trying to freak out their constituents about brown people crossing the border. They're calling it an invasion coming from Mexico. Listen, I have people very close to me who live basically right along the border. There's no invasion, people. Things are fine. Now, you might be able to argue that there is a border crisis. There certainly needs to be something done about immigration. Preferably something that will make it easier for people trying to get away from bad situations to get United States citizenship. It should be an easier process. We need to be able to do that because that is ultimately good for America. Not only do we help people fleeing these bad situations, but we bring more diversity into our country. We bring more culture into our country. We bring more people to work and more people to spend money into our country because believe it or not, when those people come over the border, whether they do so illegally or not, and they work in our country, they also spend money in our country. And this is really dang good for the economy. If you ended all immigration tomorrow, economies along the border would absolutely collapse. But let's refocus here. Let's talk about that 6 billion number that she threw out there. That's a huge number, and again, an impossible one. But let's say she said like 500 million. Okay, that's still a really big number. It's a lot smaller than what she said. They're just trying to scare their constituents into thinking that there's this ravening horde of people with darker skin than them pouring over the borders to sell drugs and do horrible things. What was it that Trump said? The rapists and murderers? Yeah, that's what they're doing. Because like everything else they run on, they try to scare people to the point where they believe that these politicians are the only ones who can stop the madness, even though they offer no actual solutions, because they have not offered any actual solutions. Again, the wall, useless. If they built it entirely along the border, it would be useless. Pointless monument to racism. That's all they've got. Racism. Trying to make you afraid of people of different races. That's what they've got. And that's all. That is all that this tweet was. And she complains about us worrying about the Ukrainian border. Yeah, you know what? We should be worried about that, because Ukraine is a democracy and Russia is not a democracy. Russia is a dictatorship, and them expanding into a democratic country is very, very bad, because if you think they'll stop there, you are fooling yourselves. And soon we have a really big problem on our hand. If democracy gets screwed up there, it's much easier for them to screw it up in other places. And don't believe me, and don't even believe Democrats if you don't want to. Mitch McConnell has come out saying that the only thing that we did wrong is we should have lent our support sooner and in a bigger way. Mitch McConnell said that. Why? Because it makes sense for the country. Even if you want to look at it totally selfishly, even if you don't care that we're helping save lives out there, it makes sense for our country to do it. It makes sense for our allies for us to do it. It is one of the best investments we can actually make right now. And you have people on the right saying that the people in Ukraine are Nazis. Okay, let me tell you something. There probably are people who are Nazi sympathizers or whatever in Ukraine. You know what? There's people like that here too. But the government itself is not that. The fact that there are some extremist groups in there, that just means that they have people living there, basically, because you'll always find those extremists. Most of the people who are extremists in our country happen to vote Republican. All of them, actually, I think. So, yeah, there are probably some there. You probably can find a Ukrainian with a swastika on his arm. You probably can, but that isn't the country itself. So we need to help them, because the people in the hospitals and the apartments that Russia's bombed, those people aren't Nazis. They're innocent civilians. We should be helping them. If we do anything with our military, this is the perfect thing to do. You know what's not a good thing to do with our military? Is send them to the border where there is not an invasion happening, to scare away people that are trying to find refuge here legally, by the way. But even the ones who are coming over illegally, who are just trying to get a better life for themselves or their family, don't need to be met with tanks and guns. There is a better way to handle this. We as Americans need to find that better way and implement those policies that will let them come over here safely and legally. That's how you solve the problems at the border, which, by the way, are nowhere near as big and as dire as any right-wing media or right-wing public figure will tell you they are. They're lying to scare you. It's what they always do. So, do you agree with me? Do you think that we are looking at Ukraine correctly? Do you agree with me that they are just fear-mongering on the right, trying to make it sound like a much bigger problem than it is down there? I hope so, because that means that you're grounded in facts and not the fictions of Fox News and the like. But let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on any of these issues. There was a few kind of ways it splintered off in this one, but she touched on a lot of nonsense bullshit. So anyway, in the meantime, please hit like and subscribe if you like this video, and hit the little bell so you can get notified whenever I put out a new one. And always remember, if you keep leaning left, you'll always be right.